It's Friday, so welcome everyone to part 1 of 2 of this Facebook Friday Q&A here on OTRS Central. You guys took to the OTRS Central Facebook page, and I thank you for all of your questions. Let's see how many of them I can get through in these 2 parts, shall we? The part 2 edition will be up shortly after part 1, and you'll be able to get that link to part 2 at the end of this video. And then make sure you check out some of the other annotations that I put here throughout the course of the video as well for other great OTRS Central content that you may have missed. Let's get started though. Aaron Zach wants to know, in the WWE 12 game story mode, there was a faction called the United Kingdom with Regal, Barrett, Sheamus, and McIntyre. Do you think if that group was formed on TV that it would have worked? And if so, how long would you think it would have lasted? Yes, the old kind of Queen's Empire or the Empire or the United Kingdom faction that so many wrestling fans wanted to see happen because it would make sense and it would help build new stars and it would have done some good things. It would have helped the WWE's presence, especially in Europe, internationally. So all these reasons for them not to do it, which is exactly why the hell they never did it. It would have worked. It would have worked very, very well. Probably would have had to start it post-WrestleMania on maybe the UK tour that they do post-WrestleMania. That would have been the time to start it. You probably could have run it all the way through to the next year's WrestleMania. I mean, but you most certainly would have helped elevate Barrett, Sheamus, and even McIntyre. Oh, yeah. That would have been a great idea. Which is exactly why the WWE never went there. Matt from In the Rope Show wants to know if Zach Gowen was thrown over the top rope during a Royal Rumble match, would he technically be eliminated? I'm not sure if they view it as like 1 knee equals 2 feet or if the ass equals 2 feet. Great question. Maybe he technically would have never been eliminated because he didn't have 2 feet, unless he had the prosthetic on. In that case, then 2 feet could have touched the ground. Jesse Schwab, if Curtis Axel beat Triple H and Triple H beat Brock Lesnar, and Brock Lesnar beat the Undertaker, would that mean that Curtis Axel could beat the Undertaker? Why not? That's fucking awesome. Great question. See, I love how you piece that together and kind of show the inconsistencies and the flaws in the logic and the storytelling of the WWE. That drives it home right there. Curtis Axel greater than the Undertaker. Oh boy. Jared Anthony Simmons. How the hell did you come up with flaming keyboard fingers of fire? It's one hell of a creative and funny diss. I laugh every time I hear you say it. Well, I'll say it again. Here, flaming keyboard fingers of fire. I don't know. I can't exactly remember when it started. You know, kind of like the whole ding-dong dumb dicks things and some of the other things that I say. It just kind of came. It just kind of happened. And then it just went from there. And I think in that one, it was more of a sense of I had a concept of needing to come up with something. Like it was a bullet point. Like I needed something to represent the internet and their volume and anger when they take to the keyboards and they post on the forums and the comments on the videos and via social media. I just wasn't sure where I was going to go with it. And sometimes that's where my best ideas or my best phrases come from, is when I have that bullet point, but I kind of get caught up in the moment, and then something happens, and the magic happens, if you will. Derek Archer. Why is there an uproar about Daniel Bryan and no uproar about Kofi being buried? I think there was plenty of uproar about Kofi being buried, but that goes back more so to 2010 and 2011, and people probably have Kofi fatigue at this point in terms of complaining about that burial. You know, Daniel Bryan's, they feel, is fresher. It's more prevalent and more important to the company, frankly. But I get you. People should be more outraged about Kofi's. But again, you know, it's been that way for several years now, and it's not likely to change, so why waste your energy? Especially when fans, especially the hardcores, can sit there and say, look at what we did last year, and look at how we changed what the WWE was doing last year with Daniel Bryan. Now we have the chance to have our voices be heard again this year with Daniel Bryan. You know, why are they going to waste energy on Kofi Kingston? I frankly can't blame them. Matt Meffe, are we officially on the road to Rusev's burial? There's a chance. He is going to face the Cena monster. It's a very good chance. It'd be very bad. It's very likely to happen. Hilton Westfall, do you think Bray versus Taker will be a good match? Not for me. I'm not going to enjoy it. It's just, it won't have that same feel. It won't have that pop to it. It won't have that buzz to it for me. And I know I'm going to sit there and bitch about it, but I know the first time that Taker comes back, I'm going to be excited about it because it's Taker, and there's that nostalgia pop there, and there's that respect level there that I'm most certainly never going to deny. However, once that wears off, the reality is going to set in, and I'm going to be back to how I felt for several months, is that the streak is over. There is no more purpose for Taker to wrestle at WrestleMania. Hence, I do not want to see him wrestle at WrestleMania. And if I am going to see him wrestle at WrestleMania, at least give me the dream match. At least give me Sting versus The Undertaker. I think it's the backdrop of that, the fact that they would end the streak and then he doesn't even come back to try and get revenge on Brock, and or the fact that you have Sting and Taker finally under contract at the same time in the same company, and you wouldn't actually go there. That's why I really have zero interest in seeing Bray Wyatt versus The Undertaker. Just saying. Chris Hoffman, who should induct Taker when he gets in the Hall of Fame? Oh, I think you have to go with Kane. The only other person is Vince. Taker's in that Vince category. It's either got to be Kane or it's got to be Vince. And I think those are the only two real options that we have. Maybe it's nobody. Maybe it's just Taker. Stand out. Unique. Taker's been for so many years. Edsel Laurel, do you ever see the U.S. and IC titles being relevant again? No. How would you make them relevant again? Doesn't matter. They're not going to be. What I would do is put them around guys, both belts, and then merge them into one, and then take that one champion and present him as if he's like a world champion. I would make him a huge star. I would give him promo segments. I would give him skits. I would give him everything and anything that could help him stand out. Something that could elevate the profile of that belt. Have him be involved in main event angles on shows. Have him be involved in main event matches on pay-per-views if need be. Those belts, especially today, could serve a tremendous purpose, and I just don't understand why this company has devalued them so much. It's ridiculous in my mind. But, that's how you would do it. You take the belt, you put it on a champion, then you make that champion a big star, therefore elevating the profile of that title, treating it like it's something that really matters because it should matter and it can still matter. But it's not going to in today's WWE. It's just not accepted. Larkin Harris, should Lesnar beat Reigns at WrestleMania via Reigns passing out to the Kimura? One way to do it. That way Reigns still loses, yet you've established that he's a badass. You've given reasons for people to like him because he passed out from the pain, but yet and still, he still didn't go over. It's a possibility. Why not do it? All right, let's see here. Brian Simmons. If China made a sex tape with Triple H, what would it be called? A Nose in China or Katie Vick's Cerebral Dick the sequel? Where'd you come up with the fucking second one? I believe they already did. It was called Backdoor to China because Triple H likes the booty hole. Maybe, just maybe, God, that's why you don't make a son. Maybe all the shit stains from Stephanie's butthole have infected your Peter pipe to the point where you can't produce any sons from your penile proboscis. How about that? Where the fuck did that come from? Maybe it'd be called Ugga. I don't know what it would be called. Who's got the dick? I don't know. Brian Simmons, am I the only one who thinks the Mizdow character is horrible and couldn't care less about a split between him and Miz? Probably. Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure there are others that are like that, but I don't know why you don't like the Mizdow character. I mean, it's an attempt to, God forbid, have some fun. God forbid, try and get a guy over. God forbid, create a babyface. God forbid, get heat on a heel. Personally, I don't see why the fuck you wouldn't like it. That's just me, though. Ali Khan, Cody versus Goldust or Stardust versus Goldust? Cody versus Goldust, easily. Nelly Fennell, what stable would you like to have one more run? Just because it seems like somebody, whether in the group or outside of the group, always seems to benefit when they are together, I'd go Evolution. Yeah, we just got it last year, But you could definitely say the Shield, all three members, benefited in differing levels and degrees by working with Evolution. And then you go back to the foundation and the beginnings of Evolution at their top flight run in WWE back in the early 2000s. Obviously, Orton benefited, Batista benefited, Triple H benefited, hell, Ric Flair benefited. Everybody was better off because of that faction. One of the truly great factions in the history of the WWE, no question about it. Elias Eris. Is ECW overrated? Ooh, let's see who I can piss off with this one. Somewhat yes. ECW did a lot of stupid crap. There are elements of it that are very overrated. I mean, people talk about it like it was the greatest thing ever, but at its time, it was only the #3 wrestling company in the country, and it ultimately died a death 14 years ago. But it does still have a tremendous legacy, and it did impact the business, and there's no question that a lot of people and a lot of things about the business, at least for a time and period, were better off because of ECW. So there are aspects to where ECW is overrated. But I also think there are aspects to ECW that are incredibly underrated and don't get nearly the credit or the attention that they deserve. For all the talk we've heard about Vince Russo over the years, and the one good thing he did in WWF was that everybody had a purpose and everybody had a reason for being and everything had a reason for happening. You could say that happened first with ECW. I mean, it was just, they did a lot of different things. They pushed the edge. They led the way for what WCW would do a little bit later, and then what the WWF would rip off from them a couple of years later. You know, I've always resisted this whole notion of calling ECW kind of this outlaw fed, or that they were rebelling against WWF. How the fuck were they rebelling against a company that was in part funding and financing them? You know, I always wondered what the reaction of so many of the old ECW hardcores were when they found out that WWF was promoting and helping to produce their first ever pay-per-view, when they were financing Paul Heyman and ECW to a degree. I always wondered. I mean, but don't get me wrong, ECW has a legacy, and I understand why people miss it, and I understand why people loved it. But it was what it was, and let's stop making it out to be better than it was. It had its niche, it had its place, and it had its time, and it's been gone for almost a decade and a half. Let's let it be there, okay? Let's just leave it be. Let's see here. Taryn Rooks, did you get any snow where you are? And if you did, was it a pain like it was for me here in New York? No, I'm in Virginia. I think we've gotten one snowfall the entire year, and that one snowfall that we got was, you know, enough to sit there and put snow on the ground for maybe an hour or two, and then it melted by the end of the day. Yeah, I definitely don't miss Illinois or Iowa compared to this shit, that's for sure. Let's see here. Jake Young, how would you feel about Dean Ambrose restarting his feud with Seth Rollins after Fastlane to build up to a WrestleMania match? Would you make it a no-holds-barred match and or put the Money in the Bank briefcase on the line? No, I wouldn't want to do that. No, I wouldn't want to go there. Not so soon. You just did it. Why do it again, especially so quickly? Let's see here. Joe Gutfeld, what do you think is the greatest WrestleMania match and the worst WrestleMania match of all time? If we're talking about just strictly from a match standpoint, and that's it, no other factors, I think the best WrestleMania match of all time was Michaels versus Taker at WrestleMania 25, and the worst was Brock versus Goldberg at WrestleMania 20. What a steaming pile of shit that really was. So anyways, thanks to you guys that submitted your questions for part 1 of this Q&A. Once it's done, the link to part 2 will be right here somewhere, so make sure you click on that and watch this. Thanks again for submitting your questions for this Q&A, and check out all the other great content here on OTRSCentral.